Everyone watches for the same thing: forgetting. A missed name, a lost set of keys, the same question asked twice. So we wait for memory to slip. Sure, that's how Alzheimer's announces itself. But here's what fools almost every family. Memory is often not the first domino to fall. Alzheimer's usually begins somewhere else entirely, in changes that look like anything but a brain disease. And by the time the memory clearly goes, the disease has already been at work for years. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia by far, behind 6 to 8 of every 10 cases. And today, I'm counting down 8 early signs of it that families miss most, because they don't look like memory loss at all. Watch for number 3 especially. It's the one that gets mistaken for meanness when it's really the disease. Before we start, one thing that will make all 8 make sense. Don't judge any single moment. Everyone has an off day, blanks on a word, walks into a room and forgets why. That's being human. What matters with Alzheimer's is the pattern. Changes that are new for that person, that repeat, and that show up together. One of these signs alone rarely means much. Several of them, clustering over months, is the picture worth taking to a doctor. Keep that in mind as we count down. Number 8 is trouble making a plan and following it through. It shows up in ordinary places first. A recipe cooked 100 times suddenly has steps that don't line up. The monthly bills, once handled without a thought, start piling up or getting paid twice. Following directions, keeping track of what comes next, holding a few numbers in mind long enough to use them, all of it gets harder. This isn't forgetting that the bills exist. It's losing the ability to organize the steps to deal with them. Families usually blame stress, or distraction, or having too much on their plate. But when someone who always ran the household or balanced the checkbook starts losing the thread of tasks they could once do in their sleep, that's an early sign worth noticing. Number 7 is trouble with words. Not the memory of what happened, but the language to talk about it. A sentence starts fine, then stops, because the word just won't come. They can picture the thing exactly, but the name is gone, so they talk around it. The thing you write with, the box that keeps food cold, or they call it by the wrong name entirely. In a conversation, they lose their place and can't find the way back in. We all have the tip of the tongue moment that resolves a second later. This is different. It happens often, it interrupts everyday speech, and it slowly gets worse. Pay attention to how frequently it's happening, because frequency is the tell. Number 6 is struggling with familiar tasks. The things a person has done automatically for decades start to require real effort or stop working altogether. Driving to a familiar place and getting turned around. Not remembering the rules of a card game they've played their whole life. Struggling to use the coffee maker or the TV remote they've operated 1,000 times. It's easy to wave this off as getting older or being bad with technology, but normal aging might mean needing a reminder now and then. This is a new struggle with something that used to be second nature. When the routines of a lifetime start to trip someone up, that's a flag. Number 5 hides as a problem with the eyes, but it isn't the eyes at all. Alzheimer's can affect the parts of the brain that make sense of what we see. So a person may misjudge distances, reach for a glass and miss it. They may struggle to tell where a step ends and the floor begins, which is why falls can start. Reading gets harder, not because vision blurred, but because the brain can't organize the words on the page. Some don't recognize their own face in the mirror. Families send them to the eye doctor, get new glasses, and wonder why nothing helps, because the trouble was never in the eyes. When vision problems don't add up and glasses don't fix them, the brain deserves a look. Number 4 is a decline in judgment. The careful person starts making decisions that don't make sense. They hand over money to a phone scam, or give large sums to a stranger, or make a purchase that's clearly a mistake. Grooming and cleanliness may slip in someone who was always put together. Families read this as carelessness, or being too trusting, or just not caring anymore. But a real change in judgment, especially around money and safety, is one of the ways Alzheimer's shows itself, as it wears down the part of the brain that weighs consequences. If someone sharp is suddenly making choices that alarm you, don't just argue with the choice. Ask why it's happening. Number 3 is the one families get most wrong, and it can quietly tear a family apart. It starts with misplacing things, but not in the usual way. The person puts objects in strange places, the keys in the freezer, the wallet in the medicine cabinet, and then can't retrace their steps to find them. And here's where it turns painful. Because they can't reconstruct what happened, the mind fills the gap with an explanation that feels true to them. Someone took it. So they accuse a spouse, a child, a caregiver of stealing. The family hears an unfair accusation and feels hurt or thinks their loved one has turned suspicious and cruel. But this isn't cruelty, and it isn't paranoia in the way it seems. It's the brain losing the ability to retrace and trust its own memory and covering that terrifying blank with blame. Recognizing it for what it is changes everything about how you respond. Number 2 looks exactly like depression and gets treated as nothing more. The person pulls back. They drop the hobbies they loved, stop calling friends, quietly step away from the group or the work that used to light them up. Alongside it comes a flatness, a loss of drive, where they'd rather sit than do the things that once mattered. Everyone assumes they're tired, or a little down, or just slowing with age. And sometimes it is depression, which is worth treating on its own. But withdrawal and apathy are also among the earliest signs of Alzheimer's, because keeping up has quietly become hard work, and pulling back is how a person hides that struggle. If someone is retreating from a life they used to love, don't stop at "they're just tired." Gently find out what's underneath it. And number 1, the sign that's often there the earliest and gets explained away the longest: losing track of time and place. They lose the thread of what day it is, what season, how much time has passed. They forget how they got somewhere or feel briefly lost in a place they know well. Time itself starts to feel slippery. Now, in normal aging, you might forget it's Thursday and then work it out. Oh, right, the trash went out this morning. With Alzheimer's, that anchoring gets harder and happens more and more, until a person can be unsure of the year or convinced it's a decade-long past. Occasional confusion is human. Confusion about time and place that's frequent and slowly deepening is one of the clearest early windows there is. So if you're recognizing several of these in someone you love or in yourself, here's the good news hidden inside a hard topic. Catching it early is where all the power is. Do 3 things. Write it down. The specific moments when they started and whether they're getting worse over time. A record like that is worth more to a doctor than any single visit. Second, see a doctor and ask plainly for cognitive testing. Don't let it be waved off as just getting older. You are allowed to push for a real evaluation. And third, ask them to rule out the treatable causes, because some of what looks like early Alzheimer's, a thyroid problem, a vitamin deficiency, a medication side effect, depression, poor sleep, can actually be reversed when it's caught. Ruling those out is part of a proper workup. None of this is meant to frighten you. It's meant to hand you time, because time is the one thing that helps most here, and it's the thing families lose when they wait for memory to be the sign. So the next time you catch yourself thinking it's probably nothing, just getting older, remember that this is exactly what the beginning looks like. Taking it seriously isn't fear. It's the moment a family finally gets ahead of this instead of behind it. Tell me in the comments, which of these 8 surprised you most? And if no one has told you today, paying this much attention to someone you love is its own quiet act of love. If this helped, watch our video on the beginnings of dementia, the signs that appear years before memory loss. And to catch a specific type early, watch our video on the 8 early signs of vascular dementia.